separate the
Facts
from the fancy.
One man is dead.
The life of another is at stake.
If there is a reasonable
A reasonable doubt
in your mind as to the guilt of the accused,
then you must declare him
not guilty.
If, however, there is no reasonable doubt, then he must be found
Guilty.
Whichever way you decide, the verdict must be unanimous. I urge you to deliberate
Honestly and thoughtfully.
You are faced with a grave responsibility. Thank you.
The jury will retire now. He doesn't stand a chance.
chewing gum, gum.
Thank you, but no.
You know something?
I know lots of things. I'm in advertising.
You know, it's hot.
I never would have known that if you hadn't told me. Would you?
I suppose not. I'd kind of forgotten.
All I've done all day is sweat. I bet you weren't sweating like that kid who was tried.
I mean, the least they can do is air condition the place. I almost dropped dead in that court.
My taxes are high enough.
Well, this should go fast anyway.
Yes. It's off. All right, folks. If anybody needs me, I'll be right outside. Just knock.
Did he just lock that door?
Yes, he did.
What does he think we are, a bunch of crooks?
They lock us up for a little while.
And then they lock that kid away forever. That's fine by me. I never knew they did that.
Sure, they locked the door. What'd you think?
I just didn't know. It never occurred to me.
Shall we all admit right now that it's hot and humid and our tempers are short?
It has been a hard week.
I feel just fine. I wonder what's been going down over at the ad agency. You know how it is in advertising. In 6 days, my job could be gone. The whole company, too. They aren't going to like this.
Well, figure this is our duty.
I didn't object to that being my duty. I just mentioned that I might not have a job by the time I get back. Ask him to hire you. He's rich. Look at his suit.
Is that custom tailored?
Yes, it is.
You know, I have an uncle who's a tailor.
And how does he do?
Not too well. You know, a friend of his, a friend of my uncle, the tailor's, wanted to be on this jury in my place.
Why didn't you let him? I would have done anything to miss this.
And get caught or something? You know what kind of a fine you can pay for anything like that? Anyway, this friend of my uncle's was on a jury once, about 10 years ago, for a case just like this one.
So what happened?
They let him off, reasonable doubt. You know, about 8 years later, they found out he'd actually gone and done it anyway. A guilty man, a murderer, was turned loose in the streets.
Did they get him?
Well, they couldn't.
Why not?
A man can't be held in double jeopardy. I mean, unless it's a hung jury. You can't try a man twice for the same crime.
That isn't going to happen here.
6 days. Should have been done in 2. Talk, talk, talk. Have you ever heard so much talking about nothing?
Well, I guess they're entitled.
Well, that's the system. Everybody's entitled to a fair trial. Guess you can't say anything against it.
How'd you like that business about the knife? Did you ever hear a phonier story?
Well, look, you got to expect that. You know what we're dealing with.
He bought a switch knife that night.
And then he lost it.
A hole in his pocket.
A hole in his father.
An awful way to kill your father. A knife in his chest.
Well, look at the kind of people they are. You know them.
What's the matter? You got a cold?
Oh, Lulu. These hot weather colds can kill you.
I had one last year while I was on vacation, too.
All right, folks, let's take our seats.
Right. This better be fast. I've got tickets to see Singin' in the Rain for tonight. I must be the only one in the world who hasn't seen it yet. Right, Your Honor. Start the show.
How about sitting down? The gentleman by the window. How about sitting down?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's a tough figure, isn't it? A kid kills his father. Bing. Just like that. Well, it's the element, really. They let those kids run wild. Maybe it serves them right.
You know, there are better proofs than some emotion you may have. Perhaps a dislike for a certain group.
We all agreed that it was hot.
No matter tempers will get short.
That's if we disagree, but this case is open and shut. Let's get to it.
Now, we can do this whatever way you guys want to. I mean, I'm not going to make any rules. If we want to discuss it first and then vote, that's one way. Or we can vote now and see how we stand.
Let's vote now. Who knows? Maybe we can all go home.
Yeah, let's see who's where.
All right, let's vote.
Anybody doesn't want to vote?
That was easy.
Okay. All those voting guilty, raise your hands. 9, 10, 11. Okay, not guilty?
Hey, you're in left field.
All right. 11 to 1. 11 votes guilty, 1 not guilty. Now we know where we stand.
Do you really believe the kid's not guilty?
Well, I don't know.
After 6 days, he doesn't know.
In 6 days, I could learn calculus. This is ABC.
I don't believe this is as simple as ABC.
I've never seen a guiltier man in my life.
And what does a guilty man look like? He isn't guilty until we say he is guilty. Are we to vote on his face?
You sat in court and you heard the same things I did. The kid's a murderer and you know it.
Where do you look to see if a man is a killer?
Well,
I would like to know. Tell me, what are the facial characteristics that make up a killer? Maybe you know something I don't.
Look, what is there about the case that makes you think the boy is innocent?
He's a 19-year-old boy.
That's old enough.
That is old enough. The father was found with a knife in his chest. An innocent little 19-year-old kid.
I agree with you that the boy is guilty, but let's avoid emotionally colored arguments.
All right. Would you like me to list them? They
No.
proved them a dozen different ways in
No,
court.
no.
Well, do you believe the stupid story he told?
Now.
Well, do you believe the kid's story?
I don't know whether I believe his story or not. Maybe I don't.
So what'd you vote not guilty for?
There were 11 votes for guilty. It's not so easy for me to just raise my hand and send a boy off to die without at least talking about it first.
Who says it's easy for me?
Or me.
No one.
He's still just as guilty, whether it's an easy vote or a hard vote.
Is there something wrong because I voted fast?
Not necessarily.
I think the guy's guilty. You couldn't change my mind if you talked for a
I
100
do not want to change your mind.
Then just what are you trying
Look,
to do?
I just want to talk, okay? The boy, he's had a rough life. Living in the slums. His mom dead since he was 9 years old. That's not exactly a good head start. This is a tough and angry kid. Do you know why slum kids get that way? Because people like us, we hit them over the head all day, every day. I just think we owe him a few more words. That's all.
All right, it's hard. Sure. I mean, it was hard for me. Everything I have, I fought for. I worked my way through college. And maybe that was a long time ago, and perhaps you do forget. I fought, yes, but I never killed.
I know what it's like. I never killed nobody.
I've been kicked around too. Wait until he worked in the ad agency and the big boy buys the advertisement walks in. Well, we all know.
I don't mind telling you this, mister, okay? We don't owe that kid a thing. Look, he got a fair trial, didn't he? Do you know what that trial cost? He's lucky he got it. We're all grown-ups here. You're not going to tell us that we're supposed to believe that kid, knowing what he is. I've lived among them all my life. You can't believe a word they say. You know that.
Dishonesty a group characteristic. There's no monopoly on the truth.
All right, it's not Sunday. We don't need a sermon.
What this woman says is very dangerous.
Look, I don't see any need for arguing like this. We ought to behave like adults.
Right?
Oh, all right. If you insist.
Thank you.
Sure.
Now, if we're going to discuss the case, let's stick to the facts.
I think that's a good point. We have a job to do. Let's do it.
If you don't mind, I'm going to close the window. It was blowing on me.
Oh, if you don't mind, I'd like to have the window open.
But it was blowing on me.
Don't you want a little air? It's summer. It's hot.
I was very uncomfortable.
There are 12 of us in this room. There's only one window, if you don't mind.
I have some rights to.
So do the rest of us.
Look, would you mind switching spots with someone on the other end of the table?
All right. I will open the window if someone will trade.
Take my chair.
Thank you.
Shall we get back to the case?
Right, let's.
I may have an idea here. Now, I'm just thinking out loud now, but it seems to me that it's up to us to convince this gentleman that we're right and he's wrong. Maybe if we talk to each other for a minute or two, try it on for size.
That sounds fair.
Very fair.
Supposing we go once around the table.
Okay, let's start it off.
Right. We'll start with you.
Oh. Well, I just think he's guilty. I thought it was obvious.
In what ways was it obvious?
I mean that nobody proved otherwise?
Nobody has to prove otherwise. Innocent until proven guilty. The burden of proof is left on the prosecution. The defendant doesn't even have to open his mouth. It's in the Constitution. The Fifth Amendment. You've heard of it.
Everyone has.
Well, sure, I've heard of it. I know what it is. What I meant... Well, anyway, I think he's guilty.
No reason, just guilty. There is a life at stake.
All right, let's stick to the facts. Number one, let's take the old man who lives in the apartment underneath where the murder took place. At 10 minutes after 12, he said he heard what sounded like fighting. Then he heard the boy scream, "I'm gonna kill you." A second later, he heard a body fall. Then the boy ran down the stairs and out of the house. The old man called the police, and they found the father with a knife 4 inches into his chest.
And the coroner fixed the time of death at around midnight.
Right, what else do you want?
I don't know. Something doesn't seem to fit.
Look, the boy's entire story is flimsy. I mean, he claimed he was at the movies. That's a little ridiculous, isn't it? He didn't even remember what picture he saw.
That's right.
He didn't have a ticket stub.
Okay, who keeps a ticket stub from the movies?
Well, that's true enough.
I suppose, but the cashier didn't remember him.
And the ticket taker didn't either.
Look, what about the woman across the street? If her testimony doesn't prove it, nothing does.
That's right. She saw the killing, didn't she?
Let's go in order.
Now, wait a minute. Here's a woman who's lying in bed and she can't sleep. It's hot, you know? Anyway, she wakes up and she looks out her window right across the street. She sees the kid stick the knife into his father.
And how can she be sure it was the boy when she saw through the passing windows of an elevated train?
She's known this kid his whole life. Her window is right opposite his, across the L tracks, and she swore she saw him do it.
I heard her swear to it.
Okay, and they proved in court that you can look through the windows of a passing L train at night and you can see what's happening on the other side. They proved it.
Weren't you just telling us a minute or two ago that we can't trust them? That we can't believe them?
So?
So I'd like to ask you this. What makes you believe her? She's one of them, isn't she?
You're a pretty smart fellow, aren't you?
Now take it easy.
Relax. What are you letting him get you all upset for?
Well, they did take us to the woman's room, and we did look through the windows of a passing elevated train, did we not?
We did, yes.
And you did see what happened on the other side?
I didn't see as well as they said I would, but yes, I saw what happened on the other side.
Let's calm down now. It's your turn.
I'll pass it.
That's your privilege. What about you?
I'm starting to be convinced, you know, with the testimony from those people across the hall. Didn't they say something about an argument between the father and the boy around 7 o'clock? I mean, I could be wrong.
I think it was 8 o'clock, not 7.
That's right, 8 o'clock.
Okay, so they heard the father hit the boy twice, and then watched the boy walk angrily out of the house.
Right.
And what does that prove?
It doesn't really prove anything, just a part of the picture. Didn't really say it proved anything.
Anything else?
No.
I don't know. Most of it's been said already. Look, we can talk all night about this thing, but I think we're wasting our time.
Well, I don't.
Neither do I. Go on.
Look at this kid's record. He stole a car. He was arrested for mugging. I think they said he stabbed somebody in the arm.
They did.
He was picked up for knife fighting. At 15, he was in a reform school.
And they sent him to reform school for stabbing someone.
This is a very fine boy.
Ever since that boy was 5 years old, his father beat him regularly, and he used his fists.
So would I on a kid like that.
It's the kids. The way they are, you know? Well, I have a kid. When he was 8, he ran away from a fight. I was so ashamed. I told him, I'm going to make a man out of you. I'm going to break you into pieces trying. When he was 15, he punched his father in the face. He's a big kid, you know. I haven't seen him in 3 years. I hate tough kids. I hate run kids. You work your heart out of it. Well, anyway.
Look, we're missing the point here. This boy, let's say he is the product of a broken home in a filthy neighborhood. I mean, we can't change that. We aren't here to discuss the reasons why slums are breeding ground for criminals. I mean, they are. I know that. You know that. Kids who come out of slum backgrounds are potential menaces to society.
You said it there. I don't want any part of them, believe me.
You know, I've lived in a slum all my life.
Oh, now wait a minute.
I used to play in a backyard that was filled with garbage, and maybe it still smells on me.
Now, let's be reasonable. There's nothing personal.
There is something personal.
All right. She wasn't talking about you, sweetheart. Sit down.
Who did she mean?
I can understand the sensitivity.
Let's stop the bickering.
We're wasting time.
It's your turn.
All right? I've had a peculiar feeling about this case. You know, I felt the defense counsel never conducted a thorough cross-examination, and too many questions were never asked.
While it doesn't change my opinion as to the guilt of the boy, I do agree with you that the defense counsel could have been better.
So,
So this is a point.
what about facts?
So many questions were never answered.
What about the questions that were answered? For instance, let's take that cute little switch knife that fine, upright kid bought the night of the murder.
All right, let's take it. Let's bring it in here. I'd like to see it one more time, Mr. Foreman.
I don't understand why we need to see it again. We saw it a million times in court. What do you think?
Well, the gentleman has a right to see exhibits and evidence.
Fine by me.
The knife is a pretty strong piece of evidence, wouldn't you agree?
I do.
So let's get the sequence of events right as they correlate to the switch knife.
All right, the boy admits to leaving his house around 8 o'clock after being slapped by the father.
Or punched.
Or punched. It says here that the boy went to a neighborhood store and purchased the switch knife, and the storekeeper was arrested the following day as he admitted to selling it to the boy.
It's a pretty peculiar knife. You don't tend to forget something like that.
Right. The storekeeper identified the knife and said it was the only one like it that he had in stock. Now, why would the boy buy it?
As a present for a friend of his, he says.
Am I right so far?
You're absolutely right.
Next, the boy claims that on his way home, the knife fell through a hole on his coat pocket, and that he never saw it again. Now, that's a pretty interesting story, but I will tell you what really happened. The boy took the knife home, and a few hours later stabbed his father with it in cold blood, and even remembered to wipe the fingerprints away. Everyone connected with the case identified this knife. Now, are you trying to tell me that someone picked this up off the street, went to the boy's house, stabbed the father, all just to be amusing?
No. I'm saying that it's possible the boy could have lost the knife, and someone killed the father with a similar knife. It's possible.
Take a look at this knife. It's a pretty strange knife. I've never seen one like it before in my life. Neither had the storekeeper who sold it to the boy. Now, aren't you trying to make us accept a pretty incredible coincidence?
I'm not trying to make you accept anything. I'm saying it's possible.
And I'm saying it's not possible. Just what are you trying to do?
Yeah, what is this? Who do you think you are?
Look at it. It's the same knife.
Quiet! Let's be quiet.
Well, where did you get it?
At a little junk shop around the corner from the boy's house. It cost $2.
Now listen to me.
I'm listening.
You pulled a real smart trick here, but you've proved absolutely zero. So what if there's 10 of those knives?
Maybe there are.
The kid's a liar. You know it.
And maybe he's not a liar. Maybe he did lose the knife. And maybe he did go to the movies. Maybe the reason why the ticket taker never saw him was because he snuck in. And maybe he was ashamed to say so. I mean, is there anyone here who's never snuck into the movies once or twice when they were younger?
I didn't.
Really? I mean, not even one time.
We didn't have movies.
Maybe he went to the movies and maybe he didn't. And the boy may have lied. Do you think he lied?
Now, that's a dumb question. Sure, he lied.
Do you think he lied?
Well, you don't have to ask me. You already know my answer. He's a liar.
What do you think?
I don't know.
Now wait a minute. What are you? The guy's lawyer? Look, there are still 11 of us in this room who think he's guilty. You're alone. What are you trying to accomplish? You want to be stubborn and hang this jury? He'll be tried again and found guilty as sure as he's born.
You're probably right.
So what are you going to do? We can be here all night. Oh, now come on.
Yes, that's true.
I think we ought to get on with it.
Well, You're the one holding up the show.
Obviously, you don't think the boy is guilty.
I have a doubt in my mind.
Right, but you haven't presented anything to us that makes it possible for us to accept your doubt. I mean, there's the man downstairs. He heard it. He heard the boy shriek out.
And the woman across the L track, she heard it too.
We know he bought a switch knife that night, and we don't know where he really was. At the movies?
Earlier that night, the boy and his father did have a fight.
Right, he's been a violent kid all the way, and while that still doesn't prove anything,
Still, you know.
I've got a proposition to make. I want to call for another vote. I want you 11 to vote by a secret ballot, and I'll abstain. If there are still 11 votes for guilty, then I will not stand alone. We'll take in a guilty verdict right now.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's vote.
Let's roll it. Perhaps this is the best.
Guilty. 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 Guilty.
That's 6.
Please? 6 guilty. 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 Not guilty. Guilty.
Well, how do you like that?
Who was it? I think we have a right to know.
All right, which one of you was it? Which idiot changed their vote?
Now, is that a way to talk about a man's life?
Whose life are you talking about? The life of a dead man or the life of a murderer?
I want to know. Who?
So do I.
Excuse me, this was a secret ballot.
Nobody looked while we did it, but now I want to know.
A secret ballot, we agreed on that point. If someone wants it to remain a secret,
There are no secrets here. Listen, I know who it is. I want to know why you changed your votes. Because you start listening to this slick preacher saying stories about this slum kid who just couldn't help but becoming a murderer. Well, if that isn't the most
Now
ridiculous...
hold it.
I agree with you that the boy is guilty, but let's be fair.
Hold it. Be fair. That's exactly what I'm talking about. We're deciding whether to put a guilty man into the chair where he belongs, and we're listening to a bunch of fairy tales.
Now, just a minute.
Now you listen to me.
Let's try to keep this
Well, it
organized.
isn't organized in the slightest, but we can at least be civilized.
please, I would like to say something here. I've always thought that a person was entitled to have unpopular opinion in this country. This is the reason I came here. I want to have the right to disagree.
Do you disagree with us?
Usually I would. In this one case, I agree with you. But the point I wish to make is that in my own country, I'm ashamed to
Oh,
say.
now, what do we have to listen to? The entire history of your country?
Well, it's always wise to bear in mind what happened in other countries when people aren't allowed to disagree, but we are. So let's stick to the subject.
Yeah, let's stick to the subject. I want to ask you, what made you change your vote?
I want to know too.
Why do you think I did change
Because
my
I do. Now get on with it.
I was going to tell you, but you were so sure of yourself.
Sorry, okay, now.
I'd like to know why.
Let me tell you why that kid's
The
a
man
horrible...
wants to talk.
Thank you. This gentleman chose not to stand alone against us. That's his right. And it takes a great deal of courage to stand alone, even if you believe in something very strong. Now, he left the verdict up to us. He gambled for support, and I gave it to him. I want to hear more. The vote is 10 to 2.
That's fine. If the speech is over, let's get going.
You know, if there was anything in the kid's favor, I would vote not guilty.
I don't see what it is.
Neither do I. They're clutching at straws.
As guilty as they get. That's the kid, I suppose.
And it's that one juror that's holding out. But he'll come around. I mean, he's got to. And fundamentally, he seems to be a pretty reasonable man.
I guess so.
They haven't presented anything to make it possible for us to accept a not guilty verdict.
It's hard, you know.
Yes, it is. And what does guilty beyond a reasonable doubt really mean?
What's a reasonable doubt?
Exactly. When murder is involved, what is a reasonable doubt? I mean, you've got to have law and order. You have to draw the line somewhere. And if you don't, people are just going to start knifing each other.
Not much doubt here.
I mean, 2 men think so. I wonder why.
Well, you do hear stories about innocent men who've gone to jail or death sometimes, then years later things turn up.
And then on the other hand, some killers just get turned loose. I mean, they squeeze out on some technicality, and then they go and kill again.
Hey, listen. Things got a little heated back there, and now that you've cooled off, well, I just wanted to say nothing personal, right?
Okay. Look, supposing you answer me this. If the kid didn't kill him, who did?
As far as I know, we are here to decide whether or not the boy on trial is guilty. We have no concern for anyone else's motives.
I suppose, but who else had a motive?
The father was along in his years, perhaps an old grudge.
Remember, it is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. This is important to remember.
Everybody is a lawyer. Suppose you tell us what your reasonable doubts are?
As of right now, this is not so easy. It is more of a feeling. Yeah, a feeling. Perhaps you don't understand.
No, I don't.
A feeling. What are we gonna do? Spend the night talking about your feelings? What about the facts?
You said a mouthful. Listen, the old man said that he heard the boy scream, "I'm gonna kill you." A second later, he heard the body fall. Then the boy ran out of the house 15 seconds after that.
Where's the reasonable doubt in that?
And let's not forget the woman across the street. She looked through the open window and saw the boy stab his father. She saw it.
Right, so what else do you want?
It's not enough for me.
Well, then what is enough for you? I mean, I'd like to know.
How do you like this guy? It's like talking into a dead phone.
I mean, the woman across the street said she saw the killing through the windows of a passing elevated train. The train had 5 cars, and she saw it through the last 2. She remembers the most insignificant details.
Right, so what do you think about that?
I don't know. It doesn't sound right to me.
Well, it stands to reason.
Well, supposing you think about it, lend me your pencil. Might as well play a game of tic-tac-toe. Might as well pass the time.
This isn't a game.
Who do you think you
This is a man's life.
Oh, don't start.
All right, let's take it easy.
I've got a good mind to walk around this table and belt him.
Now, please. I don't want any fights in here.
The nerve, the absolute nerve.
All right, forget it. It don't mean anything.
How about sitting down?
This isn't a game. Who does he think he is?
Weren't we talking about elevated trains?
Yes, we were.
So?
How long does it take an elevated train going at top speed to pass a given point?
What does that got to do with anything?
How long would it take? Guess.
I wouldn't have the slightest idea.
Neither would I.
What do you think?
10 or 12 seconds, maybe.
I'd say that's a fair guess. Anyone else?
I would think about 10 seconds, perhaps.
About 10 seconds, yes.
Okay, 10 seconds. We're agreed. What are you getting at?
This. An L train takes 10 seconds to pass a given point. Now that given point is the window of the room in which the killing took place. You can almost reach out of the window and touch the L, right?
That's right. I tried it.
Okay, so?
All right, now let me ask you this. How many of you have ever lived near the L tracks?
I've
ever?
lived close to them.
They make a lot of noise, don't they? I live by them. When your window is open and the L is roaring past you, I mean, the noise is unbearable. You can barely hear yourself think.
Okay, you can't hear yourself think. What's your point?
The old man said he heard the boy say, "I'm
He
going..."
didn't say it. He screamed it.
The old man heard the boy scream, "I'm going to kill you." And then 1 second later, he heard the body fall. 1 second, that's the testimony, right?
Right.
The woman across the street, she said she looked through the last 2 cars of that L and saw the body fall, right?
Right.
The last 2 cars. The last 2 cars.
What are you giving us here?
An L train takes 10 seconds to pass a given point, or 2 seconds per car. And that L had been going by for at least 6 seconds, maybe even more, before the body fell, according to the woman. Now, the old man said he heard the boy say, "I'm going to kill you," right as the L was roaring past his nose. And it's not possible he could have heard this,
You're crazy. Of course he could have heard it.
with an L train going by.
The boy did scream it.
An L train makes a lot of noise.
It's enough for me.
It's enough for me, too.
Maybe the old man didn't hear it. I mean, with the L noise?
What do you mean? Of course he could have heard it.
Something doesn't fit.
Why would the old man make it up? What's he got to gain? You come up with these bright sayings. Why don't you sell one to a newspaper? They pay $2.
And what does that have to do with a man's life? Why might the old man have lied? You have a right to be heard.
It's just, I looked at the old man for a very long time. He had a rip in the seam of his jacket underneath his arm. Did you notice that? This is a very old man with a torn jacket. He carried 2 canes. Now, I think I know this man better than anyone here. This is an old, quiet, frightened, insignificant man. A man who's been nothing all his life, never been recognized. He spent 75 years on Earth, and no one knows his name. This is a sad thing. A man like this needs to be recognized, needs to be deemed important, needs to be quoted at least once in his life. This is very important.
Are you trying to tell us that he lied about a thing like that just to be important?
No, he wouldn't lie, but he could make himself believe he heard the boy and saw the boy run down the stairs.
Well, if that isn't the most ridiculous story I've ever heard, how can you make up a thing like that?
I'm not making it up.
You must be.
He would just make himself believe.
How do you know a thing like that?
I speak from experience.
What?
I am, the same man.
Well, I think we all can understand. Thank you.
If you wanted to admit that you're a liar, it's fine. by
Now
me.
that's too much.
But didn't he just admit he's a liar?
He did not say he was a liar. He was explaining.
Didn't you just admit that you're a liar?
Please, he was explaining the circumstances so we understand why the old man might have lied. There's a difference.
A liar's a liar, that's all there is to it.
Please, have some compassion.
Folks, please, we have our job and our duty here.
I think they've covered it.
I hope we have.
All right. Is there anything else?
Cough drop?
No, thank you.
Anybody want a cough drop?
Come on, let's get on with it.
I'll take one. Thank you. Now, there's another point I'd like to make here. I think that we've proven the boy could not have screamed, "I'm going to kill you," and the man hear it. But supposing the man really did hear the boy say this phrase, how many times have we used this in our lives? Probably hundreds. If you do that one more time, Junior, I'll murder you. Come on, Rocky, kill him. I mean, we say this every day. That does not mean we're actually going to kill somebody.
Wait, doesn't the situation alter that somewhat?
The old man was murdered.
And one more thing, the boy screamed at the top of his lungs, "I'm going to kill you."
Yeah, that's the way I understand it.
So don't try and tell me that he didn't mean it. Because anybody who says a thing like that the way he did, they mean it.
And how they mean it.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you really think the boy would yell out such a thing for the entire neighborhood to hear? No. No, I don't think so. The boy's much too bright for that.
Right. He's a common ignorant slob. He don't even speak good English.
He doesn't even speak a good English.
Look, the boy's clever enough.
I'd like to change my vote to not guilty.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
The vote is 9-3 in favor of guilty.
Well, I'd like to know why you changed your vote.
I think there's a doubt.
Where? What is the doubt?
There's the knife.
Oh, fine.
He talked you into believing some fairy tale.
Well, go on. Give us your reason.
The old man, too. Maybe he didn't lie, but then just maybe he did. Maybe the old man doesn't like the kid.
Well, if that isn't the end.
I believe there's a reasonable doubt.
What are you basing it on? Stories that this guy made up? He ought to write for Amazing Detective Monthly. He'd make a fortune. Look, the kid had a lawyer, didn't he? Why didn't the lawyer bring up any of these points?
Lawyers can't think of everything.
Oh, brother. You sit in here and pull stories out of thin air. And now we're supposed to believe that the old man didn't get out of bed, run to the door, and see the kid beat downstairs 15 seconds after the killing.
That's the testimony.
And the old man swore to this. Yes, he swore to this just so he could be important.
Did the old man say he ran to the door?
Ran, walked, what's the difference? He got there.
I don't know, but I don't see how he could have ran.
He said he went. I remember it now. He said he went to the door. That's enough, isn't it?
Where was the bedroom again?
Down the hall somewhere.
Down the hall. Or we just send a boy off to die because it was down the hall somewhere?
I thought you remembered everything. You don't remember that?
No, I don't.
Neither do I. I don't recall.
Mr. Foreman, I'd like to take a look of the diagram of the apartment, please.
Why don't we have them run the trial over again just so you can get everything straight?
It was down the hall somewhere, but do you know? Do you know exactly where it was? Please, a man's life is at stake. Do you know?
Well,
Mr. Foreman.
I heard you.
How come you're the only one asking for exhibits?
I
here?
want to see this one too.
So do I.
It's a waste of time.
What, are we going to start wading through the evidence like where the body was found?
We're not. We're going to find out how an old man who's had 2 strokes in the past 3 years and walks with a pair of canes can get to his front door in 15 seconds.
He would have been in a hurry. After all, he did hear the boys yell.
He can only walk very slowly. They had to help him into the witness chair.
You make it sound like it's a long walk. It's not.
For an old man who carries 2 canes, it is a long walk.
Where's this diagram?
Finally.
Is this what you wanted?
That's right. Thank you.
Sure. That's my job.
You want this?
Yes, please.
do me a favor. Wake me up when this is over.
I looked at that diagram for 2 hours in court, okay? Enough is
Well,
enough.
some of us are interested. Go ahead.
Thank you. All right. This is the room and the apartment in which the killing took place. And the old man's apartment is directly beneath it and exactly the same. Now, this is the L line, and this is a bedroom. Another bedroom and a living room, a kitchen and a bathroom, and this is the hall. This is the front door, and these are the stairs. Now, the old man was in this room in bed. He said he got up, went into the hall, walked down the hall, opening the front door in just enough time to see the boy racing down the stairs.
That's the story.
That's what happened.
15 seconds
Actually,
after the body fell.
he said 20 seconds.
He said 15.
How can you judge a thing like that?
He was very positive about it. He said 15 seconds.
He's an old man. He was confused half the time. You saw that. How can he be positive about anything? Well, I mean,
No, I don't know, but maybe you know. Anyways, the old man's bed is next to the window. It is 12 feet from his bed to the bedroom door. The length of the hall he had to move through was 43 feet and 6 inches. He had to get up, grab his canes, walk 12 feet, open a door, walk another 43 feet, opening the front door in 15 seconds. Now, do you think this is possible?
Oh, you know it's possible.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
just what are you doing?
I want to try something. Let's see how long it took him. I'm going to pace off 12 feet, the length of the room.
You're crazy. You can't recreate a thing like that.
Perhaps if we could see it. This is an important point.
It's a ridiculous waste of time.
Let him do it.
I can't see any harm in it. Foolish, but go ahead.
Hand me a chair. All right. This is his bedroom door. Now, how long would you say it is from here to the door of this room?
I'd say 20 feet.
Just about.
20 feet is close enough. From here to the door and back is 40 feet. That's even shorter than the length of the hall the old man had to move through, wouldn't you say?
Look, this is a ridiculous waste of time. What makes you think you can do this?
We can't stop him.
Do you mind if I try it? According to you, it'll only take 15 seconds. We can spare that. Now, who has a watch with a second hand?
I have.
Okay. When you want me to start, stamp your foot, and that will be the body falling.
We'll time you from there.
Let's say he keeps his canes at the right side of his bed, right?
Right.
Okay. I'm ready.
Oh, waiting for the hand to get to 60.
Oh, speed it up. The old man could walk twice as fast as that.
This is, I think, even more quickly than the old man walking in the courtroom.
No, it wasn't.
If you think I should speed up, I will.
Just go a little bit faster.
Stop.
Right.
What's the time?
15, 20, 30, 35, 39 seconds exactly.
Hey now, you know.
39 seconds.
And the old man swore on his oath that it was only 15.
He may have been a little bit off on the speed that the old creep moved at, but 24 seconds off. Now, well, you know.
Far be it from me to call anyone a liar, and even accounting for a great difference in speed between the old man and you, why, there's still quite
There's still quite a discrepancy.
Right.
It's my guess that the old man was trying to get to his front door, heard someone racing down the stairs, and assumed it was the boy.
I think that's possible.
Assumed? Now you listen to me, people. I've heard all kinds of dishonesty in my day, but this little display takes the cake.
What dishonesty?
Tell him! You come in here with your heart bleeding all over the floor about slum kids and injustice. And you've got these soft-hearted old ladies listening to you. Well, I'm not. Frankly, I'm getting real sick of you. What's wrong with all you people? The kid's guilty. He's gone to burn. We're letting him slip through our fingers.
Our fingers. Are you his executioner?
I'm one of them.
Perhaps you'd like to pull the
Oh,
switch.
for this kid, you bet I would.
I'm sorry for you.
Don't start
What it
with
must
me.
be like to want to pull the switch.
Shut
You're
up.
a sadist.
Shut up!
You want this boy to die because you personally want it, not because of the facts. You're a beast. You disgust me.
Let me go! I'll come! I'll come!
You don't really mean you'll kill me, do you?
Everything okay? I heard a noise.
Oh, there's nothing wrong. You can take that back. We're finished with it.
What are you all looking at?
Look, I don't see any need for behaving like children.
So do I. We have a responsibility. This is a remarkable thing about democracy. That we are, what is the word? Notified. That we are notified by mail to come down to this place and decide on the guilt or innocence of a man. Of a man that we have not known before. We have nothing to gain or lose by our verdict. This is one of the reasons why we are strong. We should not make it a personal thing.
Thank you very much.
Why do you thank me?
We forget. It's good to be reminded.
Yes, I'm glad we can be civilized.
Well, we're still nowhere.
No, we're somewhere. Or getting there, maybe.
Maybe.
Who's got an idea?
I think we should try for another vote. Mr. Foreman?
It's all right with me.
Let's call out our votes. I want to know who stands where.
Anyone object? Okay. I vote guilty. Number 2?
Not guilty.
3?
Guilty.
4?
Guilty.
5?
Not guilty.
6?
Not guilty.
7?
Guilty.
8?
Not guilty.
9?
Not guilty.
10?
Guilty.
11?
Not guilty.
12?
Guilty.
And that's 6 to 6.
I'll tell you something. The crime is being committed right in this room.
The vote is 6 to 6.
Listen, I'm ready to walk into court right now and declare as a hung jury. There's no point in arguing anymore.
Look, I'd like to know why you changed your mind. And why you changed your mind. And why you did. I mean, there are 6 people in here who seem to think that we may be turning a murderer loose. Emotion won't do. Why?
It would seem that the old man did not see the boy run downstairs. I don't think it likely that the old man heard the boy scream, "I'm going to kill you." Old men dream. And if he did hear the boy scream that he was going to kill, then we have the authority of this woman to prove that he might not actually mean he's going to kill.
Why don't we take it into the judge and let the kid take his chances with 12 other guys?
6 to 6. I don't think we'll ever agree on
Andy?
anything.
Got to be unanimous, and we're never going to convince him.
At first, I was alone. And now 5 others agree. There is a doubt.
Well,
You're never going to convince me that there is a doubt, because I know there is no doubt.
I tell you what, maybe we are a hung jury. It happens.
We're not going to be a hung jury.
But we are. Right now, a perfect balance. Let's take it into the judge.
I mean, if there is a reasonable doubt, I don't see it.
The doubt is there, in my mind.
Maybe we should try another vote.
What do you mean,
Not
vote?
again.
Vote on what?
Are we or aren't we a hung jury?
You mean vote yes, we are a hung jury, and no, we're not a hung jury?
Right. That's exactly what I was thinking.
We can't even agree about whether or not the window should be open.
Let's make it a majority vote. The majority wins.
Wait, so if 7 or more of us vote yes that we are a hung jury, we take it into the judge and say we're a hung jury?
Yeah. And if 7 or more of us vote no, then we aren't a hung jury. So we go on.
That doesn't seem right to me.
Well, it's the only solution.
I agree. It's the only way.
Anything to end this.
Are we agreed then? 7 or more vote yes and we take it into the judge? Okay.
vote.
Well, I vote yes, we are a hung jury. Number 2,
No.
3,
Yes.
4,
Yes.
5,
No.
6,
No.
7,
Yes.
8,
No.
9,
No.
10,
Yes.
11,
No.
12.
This is ridiculous.
It's 6 to 6.
We can't even get a majority to decide if we're a hung jury or not.
Look, I went along with the majority vote on this question, and typically I don't agree with voting that way, not really, and I still don't. So I'm changing my vote. I say no, we are not a hung jury. No, look, I still agree with you that the boy is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, but there are still some things that I would like to discuss among the people who changed their minds.
So then we aren't a hung jury. So we go on.
Good. So we go on.
Now, why did you change your mind?
Well, he seems so sure, and he's made a number of good points, while she only gets mad and insults everyone.
Wait, so the anger and the insult changes the guilt of the boy? I mean, he did do it. Are we to turn a murderer loose when she thinks that we may be turning a murderer loose?
That's true.
There is a doubt.
No, I don't think so. The L tracks are directly outside the old man's window, and they're said to make a low rumbling noise, so let's take that point. Sure, L trains make a low rumbling noise, but they also screech as they go around turns. So the old man could have heard a scream, which also is high-pitched. He also lives in a tenement which have thin walls.
Good, good, that's good.
What if the old man was wrong about the time it took him to get from his bed to the door, but was right about whom he saw running down the stairs? Please remember that all the fingerprints are wiped away from the knife, and it's summer, so gloves seem unlikely.
Listen to this man, he's got the goods.
And it would have taken a few seconds to get his handkerchief out and wipe the fingerprints away.
This is a point.
Why don't we time it?
Just what are we timing?
Yes, let's be exact, please.
What I'm saying is the old man may have been wrong about the time it took him to get from his bed to the door, but was right about whom he saw running down the stairs. Now, it may have taken the murderer about 39 seconds to get the handkerchief out, wipe the fingerprints away, and get down the stairs to the place where the old man saw him. The boy, that is.
The
We-
worst result in this particular case, just human nature.
Yes,
We
it seems reasonable.
Reconstructed the old man getting out of bed and going to the door, and we timed that. Now we might as well reconstruct the actual killing.
As well as we can reconstruct it.
I think a murderer could use up to 30 or 40 seconds at this point.
Right, so let's reconstruct it just to be sure.
Yes, let's.
Here, why don't you do this?
No, I'll do it.
What about you? You're younger than I am, and after all, it only takes a second to fall.
Right, and he was found on his side, his right side. So when I stab, you fall and roll onto your right side. I mean, if someone hates another person enough to kill them, don't you think it's reasonable to suppose that they would look at their victim for a second or two?
Wait a minute. You said that the father fell on the right side? Well, stabbing someone isn't like shooting them, especially in the heart. He would have fallen and then worked around on the floor for a few seconds, writhing perhaps.
That seems quite possible. There may have been enough oxygen in his system to carry him for a second or two, I should think.
Wouldn't the father have cried out?
Maybe the kid held his mouth.
Yes, that also seems possible.
Also, there's another point that we may bring out. Anyone clear enough mentally to wipe away the fingerprints after murdering someone is also clear enough to look around the apartment, or room in this case, to see if there are any other clues left behind. I mean, it should only take a second or two, but we should still add it in.
About this on the fingerprints. If the kid wiped off the knife, what about the doorknob? If I saw a man coming into my home, a man that hated me, and he stopped to wipe the doorknob off with a handkerchief as he entered, it would give me an uneasy feeling. So the boy must have wiped the doorknobs off after the killing, and this too would take some time.
Sure, we can add that too. You time the last one, why don't you time this one too?
All right.
Stomp your foot when you want me to start.
I want the hand to be at 60.
I'm going to kill you. No, he would have wiped both knobs. And stop.
15, 20, 25, about 29 and a half seconds, I'd say.
And whoever did kill the old man, the boy, I think, would still have to get down at least one flight of stairs to the place where the old man saw him.
So, now both time sequences checked. The one you did and the one we did. What was running downstairs and everything, it does pretty much check out.
Right, so the old man may have been wrong on time, but in view of this, I don't think it's quite wrong if we say that the old man saw the boy run downstairs.
Except for the fact that the old man absolutely swore under oath that it was 15 seconds.
So we all seem to agree that it was 25 to 40 seconds later.
You are now admitting that the old man lied in one case and told the truth in another. Now I admit this tends to confirm his story, but in part he is now a proven liar, and it's by your own admission.
That may be true that the old man lies in part, but I think it will change my vote once more. Guilty.
What about you?
I don't know what I think. I want more talk. At first I thought guilty, and then I changed. And now I'm kind of swinging back to guilty.
What about you?
I don't know. I'm in real doubt now. In real doubt.
I say guilty. I was right the first time.
Now we're starting to make sense here.
The vote seems to be about 9-3 in favor of guilty.
One more question about the old man downstairs. How many of you live in an apartment building?
I don't know what you are thinking, but I know what I'm thinking.
And what's that?
I don't live in a tenement, but it's closed and there is just enough light so you can see the steps. No more. The light bulbs are so small and this murder took place in a tenement. Remember how we stumbled on the steps?
The police officers used big bulbs, and one of them even carried a flashlight, remember?
An old man who misjudged the time by 20 seconds. On this we'll all agree. This old man looked down the dark hallway and recognized a running figure.
He was 100% wrong about the time it took. It took him almost twice as long as he thought.
Then, couldn't the old man be 100% wrong about who he saw? Do you truly feel that there is no room for a reasonable doubt?
Yes, I do.
I beg your pardon, but maybe you don't understand the term reasonable doubt.
What do you mean, I don't understand? Who do you think you are to talk to me like that? How do you like her? She comes in here running for her life, and before she can even take a big breath, she's telling us how to run the show. The arrogance of her.
Now, no one's asking where anyone came
I
from.
was born right here.
And what about your father?
Maybe it wouldn't hurt us to take advice from those who come running here. You know, maybe they learn something that we don't. We're not so perfect.
Please, I'm used to this. It's all right. Thank you.
No, it's not all right.
Okay, I apologize. Is that what you want?
Yeah, that's what I want.
All right. Let's stop the arguing. Who's got something constructive to say?
Well, something's been bothering me a bit. The whole business about the stab wound and how it was made, the downward angle of it, you know?
Don't tell me we're going to start with this again. They went over it. and over it in court.
I know they did, but I don't go along with it. The boy is 5 feet 8 inches tall. His father is 6 feet 2 inches tall. It's a difference of 6 inches. It's a very awkward thing to stab down into the chest of someone who's half a foot taller than you are.
All right. You're not going to be satisfied till you see it again. Someone stand up. All right. Now pay attention, because I'm not going to do it again. What do you say? This is about 6 inches?
That's more than 6 inches.
Let it be more then.
Look out!
That's not funny.
What's the matter with you?
Nobody's hurt, are they?
No. Nobody's hurt.
All right then. There's your angle. Down and in. That's how I'd stab a man who is taller than I am, and that's how it was done. Now, try and tell me I'm wrong.
Down and in, I guess there's no argument.
Have you ever stabbed a man?
Of course not.
Did you?
Don't be silly.
Did you?
No.
Then where do you get all of your information about how it's done?
Just common sense.
Have you ever seen a man stabbed?
What are you asking me for?
The boy. He was an experienced knife fighter. He even went to reform school for knifing someone. Isn't that so?
That's right.
Now, look at this. Doesn't that seem like an awkward way to handle a knife?
Wait a minute. What's the matter with me? Give me that knife.
Have you ever seen a man stabbed?
Yes, I have.
In the movies?
No, in my backyard. On my stoop, in the vacant lot across the street. Too many of them. Switch knives came with the neighborhood I lived. Funny that I didn't think of it before. I guess you try to forget those kinds of things. Anyone who's ever handled a switch knife would never have stabbed downwards. That's not how you use it. Use it underhanded.
So he couldn't have made the wound that killed the father.
I suppose it's conceivable that he made the wound, but it's not likely. Not if he'd ever have any experience with knife fighting, and we know that boy has a lot of experience with knife fighting.
I don't believe it.
Neither do I. You're giving us a lot of mumbo jumbo.
Well, what do you think?
Well, I don't know.
What about you?
Look, I'll tell you all something. I'm a little sick of this whole thing already. Let's pack it up and go home.
Before we do anything else, I want to try and pull this together.
This should be good.
Do you want me to time this, too?
Let's hear him.
I'm in advertising. I'm used to the big shots pulling things together. Let's trip up a few shots and see if any of them land on the green.
I want you all to look at this logically and consistently.
We have guilty.
I want to know, is this boy smart or is he dumb?
What?
This is a kid who has gone to reform school for stabbing somebody. The night of the murder, he bought a switch knife. It would then take a very stupid boy to go and murder a man, his father, with an instrument everyone would associate with him.
Well, I quite agree. He's dumb.
However, if he were dumb, then why did he make a wound that an inexperienced man would make with a knife?
I'm not sure I understand.
To kill a man must take great emotion, a great hatred, and in that moment he would use the knife as best as he could. How a trained man would handle it, underhand. A man who had not been trained would go overhand. But the boy is being very smart. Everyone knows that the boy is an experienced knife fighter. So, in that moment, he would make a wound that an amateur would make. Now that man is a smart man. Smart enough to wipe away the fingerprints. Perhaps even smart enough to wait for an L train to go by to cover the noise. Now is this boy smart or is he dumb?
Wait a minute.
Well, the woman across the L train track saw the murder through the L train itself. So it's possible someone on the L train saw the murder as well.
A possibility, but none that we know of.
All right, but it would take a very dumb man to take that chance to do the murder as the train went by.
Exactly. A dumb man. A very stupid man. A man swept by emotion. Now, he probably heard nothing. And he probably didn't even see the train coming. And whoever did murder the father did it as best as he could.
So?
This boy is dumb enough to do everything to associate himself with a switch knife murder. Yet in that same instant, he is smart enough to make a wound that would lead us to suspect someone else. Yet in that exact moment, he is stupid enough to do it as an L train is roaring past. But he's smart enough a second later to wipe away the fingerprints. I mean, to say this boy is guilty, you have to say he was dumb from about 8 o'clock to midnight. And then midnight, he was smart again, and then once again stupid, and then smart, and then once again he becomes stupid. So stupid that he forgets to make an alibi. Now, is this boy smart or is he dumb? To say that the boy is guilty, you have to toss his intelligence like a pancake. So there is a doubt.
I guess I had never thought of that before.
Also, the old man downstairs, on trial, he swore it was 15 seconds. He insisted on 15 seconds, but we all have to agree it must have been at least 40 seconds.
Does the old man lie half the time and then tell the truth the other half?
For the boy to be guilty, you have to say he was stupid, then smart, then stupid, and so on. Also, for the boy to be guilty, you have to say that the old man downstairs lies half the time, and then the other half of time he tells the truth. So you can reasonably doubt.
Well, I'm sold on reasonable doubt.
I think I am, too.
I wanted more talk, and I've had it.
I want another vote.
Okay. It's another vote called for. I guess the quickest way is a show of hands. Anyone object?
No.
Okay. All those voting not guilty, raise your hands. 9. All those voting guilty? 3. The vote is 9-3 in favor of acquittal.
I don't understand you people. How can you believe this kid is innocent? Look, you know how those people lie. I don't have to tell you. They don't know what the truth is. And let me tell you, they don't need any real big reason to kill someone either, okay? They get drunk and then bang, someone's lying in the gutter. Nobody's blaming them. That's just how they are. You know what I mean? Violent. Human life don't mean as much to them as it does to us. Where are you going? Look, these people, they're drinking and they're fighting all the time, and if somebody gets killed, so somebody gets killed. They don't care. Oh, sure, there are some good things about them, too. I'm the first to say that. I've known a few who are pretty decent, but that's the exception. Most of them, it's like they have no feelings. They can do anything. Look, what are you all doing? Listen to me. I'm speaking my piece. They're no good. There's not a one of them who is any good. Take it from me. We better watch out. This kid on trial, well, don't you know about them?
I think we've all had enough. I think it's best if you shut your mouth.
We tried it.
All right, everyone, sit down. Look, I still believe the boy is guilty of murder, and I will tell you why. To me, the most damning piece of evidence is the woman across the street. She claimed she saw the boy stab the father.
As far as I'm concerned, that's the most important testimony.
All right, let's go over the testimony. What was said?
I believe I can recount it accurately. The woman said she went to bed at about 11 o'clock that night, and she claimed that if she lies down, she could look directly into the window across the L-track lines. She tossed and turned for over an hour, unable to fall asleep, and then finally, at about 12:10, she looked across the way and saw the boy stab the father. I mean, this is an unshakable testimony.
There, that's the whole case.
Right. Frankly, in view of this, I don't see how you can vote for an acquittal. What do you think?
Well, maybe there's so much evidence to sift.
What are you talking about? That's all the evidence you need.
I mean, that was my thinking exactly. I mean, I don't deny the validity of the points made previously. Let's say on one side of the tracks there is doubt. But what about the woman? I mean, she saw the murder being committed.
What time is it?
10 minutes of 6.
You don't suppose they let us go home and finish this in the morning? I got a kid with the mumps.
Not a chance.
Wait. Can't you see the clock without your glasses?
Not clearly.
Glasses are a nuisance, aren't they?
Well, what do you do when you wake up at night and you want to check the time?
I put on my glasses and look at the clock.
I just wait for my clock to chime. You know, my father gave that to us when we married, my wife and I. It was about 10 years before we had a spot to put it.
Well, do you go to bed in your glasses?
Of course not. No one wears eyeglasses to bed.
What about the woman? She wore glasses. What about her?
Did she wear glasses?
Of course, the woman wore bifocals. I remember this very clearly. They looked quite strong.
That's right. Bifocals. Never took them off.
I think that it's logical to say she'd never went to bed in her glasses, and she wouldn't put on her glasses to casually glance out the window. She testified that the murder happened the instant she looked out the window, and then 1 split second later the lights went off. Now, I'm not calling her a liar because she honestly thought she could have seen the boy, but I say she only saw a blur.
What if she's farsighted? You don't know what she saw. How do you know all these things?
Is there still anyone who believes there's no room for reasonable doubt?
Well, I will always wonder, but there is a reasonable doubt in my mind.
Does anyone else think that the boy is guilty?
No. I believe there is a reasonable doubt.
I think he's guilty.
Well, you're alone.
11 votes not guilty, 1 guilty.
You're not going to change my mind. I know he's guilty.
That's your right.
What else do you want?
Your arguments?
I gave you my arguments.
Well, we're not convinced. We want to hear them again. We have time.
Listen, you're the one who made all the arguments. You can't abandon them now. You know that he's guilty. Come on, stay with me.
I'm sorry. I don't think I'm wrong very often, but in this one case, I guess I was. There's a reasonable doubt in my mind.
You're not going to intimidate me. I have rights. It's going to be a hung jury.
Well, I suppose there's nothing we can do about that except hope that one day, maybe in a few months, you actually get some sleep.
You're all alone.
Well, remember, it does take a great deal of courage to stand alone.
I mean, if it's a hung jury, there will be another trial, and some of us will point these things out to various lawyers.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, they're waiting.